the goal.
Okay. Anything else?
And the next is KPI number 8 is the ratio of the computer for students. We support the computer to students for the hybrid learning. For example, this year we support the new iPad to the students.
Every student has an iPad?
Yes. The next one is the percentage of the citation, and the last one is the percentage of the
Citation in where? Citation
in Scopus.
in
Scopus.
Scopus? Okay.
And the last one is the percentage of the international application.
Is this one or number of faculty publications?
Yes.
Which one? This one or this one? The first one or the second one?
The second one.
Second one. Okay. Anything else? That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Hatia University.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm
Morning.
going to share with you Hat Yai University top key performance. We are private university. KPI similar to Thai Chamber. Okay. Let's start the first. The number of intake students. We believe its number is very important.
Okay.
Okay. Next, the second. The list of graduates who get a job.
In 1 year?
1 year, yeah.
1 year, 1 year.
And the third, the percentage of dropout students.
Is this one? Or just make this not only first year students, but all students, right?
All students.
Okay. Overall student continuation rate.
Overall,
Okay.
okay. Next, student survey satisfaction regarding teacher teaching. The student evaluates the teacher teaching every semester.
Okay.
And next, the number of research persons present in national and international scale and international citation. Okay. And next, Hat Yai University staff satisfaction and engagement survey. We survey every year using questionnaires. Okay. And then the outcome of internal quality assessment we call IQA. Yeah. And next, administrator evaluation. Okay.
That would be in the outcome of IQA.
IQA, yeah. internal quality assessment.
Internal quality
Assessment,
assessment,
yes.
IQA finding.
QA.
Okay. Next.
Next, the administrator evaluation. We call it 350-degree evaluation.
Evaluation
Evaluation
administrators.
administrator. Okay.
Is that from the president or?
Yes. And next, the last. Oh, not the last. The number of 9. The number of student complaints. We collect this data through different channels as we reported yesterday.
Number of student complaints.
Number of student complaints, yes.
Okay. Anything else?
The last. About the budget. The budget are research from our university and sponsorship.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The last group. Oh, you've got a lot of measures. A lot of similarities though. So, okay, last group. Move on.
Hello, good morning everybody. We are from the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Science, Ubon Ratchathani. And we are state university with a limited budget obtained from the government. Therefore, we have some similar measurements with other state universities presented previously. But we also have some other measurements used to evaluate for our academic service unit, our earning unit. So we chose the 10 following measurements to evaluate our organization performance. Item 7.1, student learning and process outcome. There are 4 measurements we chose to measure our performance in this item. The first one, the level of teaching performance, which is measured at the end of every semester. And the second one is the percentage of pharmacy students passing the national license examination in the first time. Also measured once a year. And the third one,
Make this student. Percentage of. They graduated already, right? Graduated. And then I'll make this 3. So this would be pharmacy, medicine. Okay, next. Third.
the third measurement for item 7.1 is the percentage of students passing the comprehensive examination. This is also measured once a year. And the last measurement for item 7.1 is the number of research articles published. And the data is collected every 3 months. And for item 7.2, customer focused outcomes, we have 2 measurements for this. The first one is the level of student satisfaction on educational service and support. And this is measured once a year. And the second measurement for this item is the level of student engagement. to our organization. Also measure once a year.
How do you measure that?
We have questionnaires distributed to the students, and also some students also are called for the interview. Okay, next item 7.3, workforce focus outcomes. We have two measurements for this. The first one is the level of workforce engagement. Also, we use questionnaires and asking our workforce for various of factors which affect their engagement. Also, we measure once a year. And the second measurement on this item is the percentage of trained staff in human resource development. Also, we measure once a year.
Only in HR development? Staff, or that includes faculty also? Or just?
Academic staff and also supporting staff. And next, item 7.4, we have one measurement. The reduction of electrical energy consumption, and we report every month. Because nowadays the faculty have to pay our own electrical bill. But this is also has two sides, so everyone realize that they have to help our organization to save the budget.
If you go to my office, I turn off my lights. Yeah, it's off. I only turn it on after 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
And the last measurement on item 7.5 on the budgetary, financial, and market outcomes. So we measure the amount of income earned from academic service units, such as pharmacy drugstore. We have 2 pharmacy drugstores, and also herbal producing unit and a water analysis unit, which is qualified by the. We have ISO also.
Okay. What I'm going to do, by the way, is I'm going to clean this up, okay? And then put them in categories 7.1, A1, A2, so that, and then I'll have the OHEC circulated to everyone, so at least, and I did not note down who said which, okay? So I was just writing this down, so that at least you'll have a good collection of possible KPIs. You started with only 10. I think we have about 30, 40 here. So, but some of them are actually overlapping. Okay, let me give you my feedback on each one of these, or some of these. I think some of these are universal KPIs that will apply to all of you. Like, for instance, when you look at 7.1, the student learning and process outcomes. All of you, I think, will have to measure graduation rate. Especially if you're a public university, your contribution to society is to graduate students. And when you measure graduation rate, you should also measure the percentage of those graduate students who are employed within 1 year. Because your contribution to society is to graduate students with highly valued degrees, and then they eventually make their own contributions to society, okay? Now, my feedback about this percentage of graduated students who are employed within 1 year, 1 year might be too long, Like in 1 year's time, you would expect everyone to be employed. And I don't think you can have a motivational strategy based on 1 year employed, because even if you don't do something, they will be employed within a year, okay? Either their parents will force them to work, or their husbands, their wives, or significant other will force them to work. Okay? So even if, I think a more challenging KPI would be percentage who are employed within 3 months. Huh? 3 months too short? Okay, 6 months. Okay. Percentage of KPI of graduated students who are employed within 6 months. The usual objective in the U.S. is 3 to 6 months. So some schools would say 3 months. Usually the better, the top tier schools would say within 3 months after graduation. And the other schools, but most of the schools in the U.S. would actually say 6 months. Within 6 months you should have a job. Some schools are even better than that. They would say, by the time that you graduate, by the time that you march to get your diploma, you should have at least 3 offers, 3 job offers, or 3 admission offers to graduate school. Okay, so that's that's actually a tough objective. Okay, so can I change this to 6 months? It's more like an objective now, because as I've said, 1 year, even if you don't do anything, your graduates will find a job within 1 year. Okay. Then percentage of students passing the comprehensive exam. Okay, this is a kind, yes.
Sorry, I would like to ask you and share your experience. I wonder if some of our students try to set their own business.
Oh yes, because that's really, okay. When we measure this in my university, it's actually placement rate is what we measure, the placement rate of our graduated students. And we measure them within 3 months, so placement within 3 months. And by placement we define you're working, you're going to graduate school, okay, you're serving in the military, okay, or you open your own business. Okay. So you must be in some gainful occupation. Okay. We will not include in that you're working at McDonald's, you're making hamburgers. if you're not, unless if you're in culinary arts, okay, like that is what you train for. But we will not include those kinds of occupations unless they are in your discipline. So serving in the military, serving, going to graduate school, having your own business, working. So that is what we mean here by employee. Okay? Now, the percentage of graduated students passing national licensure exams, if you have degree programs where there are professional certifications associated with those programs, like medicine, pharmacy, engineering, I think this should always be a KPI. Okay? It's given. Okay? So it's a way by which you measure the performance, the student learning. Now, percentage of passing the comprehensive exam, this is a different kind of KPI. It's internal to the organization. By internal, I mean you can control this. So it is within your control, but it is a leading indicator of this. Okay? Okay? If you have a bad percentage of students passing the comprehensive exam, that means that you'll have some problems with your students passing national licensure exam. Okay? If they pass their own internal examination, what more the external examination. So this is an example of a key performance indicator that I will measure, but only as a predictor of how number 1 will be. You see the point there? So number 1, the graduated students passing licensure examinations is an example of a lagging indicator. The lagging indicator, the performance has already been achieved. Okay? And so now you want to find out how many pass, how many fail. Okay? Whereas this is more like a leading indicator of this performance. Okay? In fact, Most universities, if I will challenge you that instead of saying graduated students passing national licensure exams, it should be on the first try. Okay? That should be the KPI. Because at some point in time, they will pass. Okay? They will pass all 4 parts or all 5 parts, but the thing is, what you should be measuring is on the first attempt. Right? And that is what really will make the difference between, can you imagine how different it will be if your KPI is just percentage of graduated students passing national licensure exams, that's one KPI, as opposed to percentage of graduated students passing national licensure exam on the first attempt. How different will it be in terms of what you would do? Okay? You'll actually spend more time preparing your students for those licensure exams as opposed to the former, the other approach. Okay? So where is bold here? How do I bold this? Ah, there. Okay. I will bold this. I will bold this. I will also bold this for now. Okay. Okay, then let's take a look at the other KPIs. Then another group of KPIs deal with research productivity. Okay, so this is something that, in fact, there's probably a way by which you can actually combine or recast percentage of faculty who present the research at national, international scientific meetings, or percentage of research articles that are cited. Okay. That's a good KPI to have, particularly if research is part of your mission. Number of faculty publications. Okay, I'll tell you how we measure this, because our university is so diverse in terms of programs. Like we don't have engineering, but we have a business school, we have an education school, we have an arts, humanities, and social sciences, and then we have health and natural sciences, where our nursing program is. So the problem is the concept of faculty scholarship varies from discipline to discipline. Okay? Like in business and the sciences, the concept of scholarship is you make a paper presentation, and then you convert that into a publication that is peer-reviewed, and then you look at the citation, okay, how many times that article has been cited. Okay? But what if your discipline is music? They don't publish, okay? So what is the concept of scholarship in music? Okay? Or what if your discipline is dance? So what is the concept of scholarship in dance? They have scholarship. No, we actually have these faculty meetings within departments to talk about what is the concept of scholarship. So in dance, their concept of scholarship is they actually choreograph a dance. They do it by themselves. They choreograph a ballet, and they actually exhibit it. Exhibit is they perform it. Or they have someone perform it, and then they also have a peer review process. So they have a panel of their peers actually evaluating that choreography. So that is their concept of scholarship. Okay? And the same thing is true with music. So they have a composition, and that composition is performed, and then there is a peer review process. The problem is, the peer review process in dance and in music happens after the performance. Okay? Whereas the peer review process in business, in scientific research is before the publication, right? So you write a paper, and then it gets reviewed, and then it gets published. Okay, so it's the other way around, but still the concept is there is peer review. Okay, there is scholarship in those disciplines, and so the way we measure this now, we stop counting the number of publications, because that is not the measure that we're looking for. But what we're really looking at is what percentage of our faculty are academically qualified and continue to be academically qualified, because that is the objective. And academic qualification here means not only having a doctorate or a terminal degree, but also keeping yourself current. In the case of the sciences, current in terms of publications. So each school and each department, they created a kind of a rubric as to what constitutes an academically qualified faculty in our department. So you do that for the sciences, you do that for dance, you do that for music. And so the standards vary from, well, the standards are about the same. And the university standard is something like, to remain to be academically qualified, then you need to be making the average, the equivalent of a conference presentation that is peer-reviewed every year. Every year you make a conference presentation. And then over a 5-year period, you should have at least 2 or 3 peer-reviewed journal articles. Okay? That is the university standard for what constitutes academic qualification. Now that standard then gets translated into an equivalent standard in dance, in music, in education, okay, and the other fields. And so what we then measure as our KPI is the percentage of our full-time faculty who meet the standard. And we want that to be 80% at least, okay? We want that to be 80% at least, so that is our goal, okay, over time. Okay, so that's another way of actually measuring this KPI without getting into the business of counting, okay? That business of counting then occurs within the faculty, within the departments, okay? So it's the dean who certifies that they are academically qualified. Okay? Then these other measures, they need to be measured, but maybe at another level in the organization. Remember, we're looking at our top 10, right? Okay. So we have 3, and then 1 more on the faculty, on the publication, so that we deal with. Then the student satisfaction, I think this is a given. This has to be measured. Okay. And just for our purposes, let me highlight also this one. So that means we have 4 already, right? So we have 4 KPIs under 7.1, and then we got student satisfaction, okay? I will also include here stakeholder satisfaction, right? In fact, you can combine this employer satisfaction with graduates. And I mentioned to you yesterday the problem, the operational problem that we have in employer satisfaction with graduates, especially if they employed only one of your graduates. So that question amounts to having them reveal a performance appraisal, which is not really the case. Okay, so I would highlight this. Okay. Then, what else might we highlight here? We can highlight, of course, alumni giving rate. They the alumni are satisfied with us and they give back. You can highlight number of student complaints, but these are, a number of things. These are things that already happen. Okay. Level of student engagement in the university. There's actually, in the United States, there's a national study on student engagement. There are several measures what they look at, okay? And there are several definitions of what engagement is, okay? And that's something that you might want to take a look at. There must be a localized version of that. It's called the NSSE, N-S-S-E, okay? National Study or National Survey of Student Engagement, and it's a national questionnaire that's sent out, and it actually allows you to benchmark. Students will actually indicate in the questionnaire what kinds of engagement they've done, engagement in classes, engagement outside the classroom. Okay. There are measures of that. But if you ask me to identify which one of these I'll pick the overall student continuation rate. Okay. In fact, in particular, the first year. If I have to choose between first year and overall, first year is actually the more important, because these are the ones who experience a shock. So if they leave, okay, then you really have problems, okay. So if your first year retention rate is good, okay, you can expect that your other retention rates are also going to be good, okay. So this is a good, in fact, I'll just do it. I'll just do that. If you don't mind, I'll just bold this instead, okay? Okay? Because that is the retention rate that is really, that's really more telling, okay? Now, we go to the faculty and staff, the workforce. Percentage people, faculty who possess terminal degrees, full-time academic staff, associate or full professors, they're about the same, right? They talk about, generally in the United States, this percentage, the terminal degrees, this has to be at least about 60%, okay? 60 to 70% is what we're looking at. But of course, the better the university is, the higher this percentage is. Percentage of faculty who are either associate or full professors. In my own university, I don't want this percentage to be too high, because that means that your faculty are kind of on the mature side already. So we want really more like a pyramid, and to have a lot of assistant professors, and then fewer associate professors, and then a core, a small core of full professors. So like a pyramid is what we would prefer to have. Unfortunately, my university right now is it's an inverted pyramid. So, okay, so if I start tracking this, it might send a signal that we want my older professors to start retiring. You know, so actually I do, but I can't tell them. It's against the law. It's age discrimination. I ask them to, if I even give them a hint that they should retire. Okay, so faculty and staff satisfaction and engagement. There are many ways to measure this. Okay, so I think nearly all of you mentioned that. I'll bold that one. How many measures do we have now? 4 plus 3 is 7. This is now our 8th. Okay. The rest, you know, voluntary retention, staff dissatisfaction, voluntary turnover. What? Wait. Voluntary turnover. Actually, one and the same here. We don't measure this in my university, and the reason is we would rather measure this, these faculty, staff, and satisfaction and engagement, because these are leading indicators of the things to come. In the United States, there's a survey called the Great Colleges to Work For every year. It's administered every the first part of the year, from January to March. Great Colleges to Work For, and we participate in that survey. It's actually run by our Human Resource Department. And it actually gives us scores on several dimensions, okay? Like a score on how confident the employees are with senior leadership of the university. That's one score. How satisfied they are with benefits, okay? With compensation and benefits. That's another score. So every year we track our performance of the Great Colleges to Work For study, and so we've done it now for 4 years. And one of the things that we did as a result of those 4 years of tracking our performance, we decided this year to take a look at our compensation and benefits policy. Okay. We found out that our compensation, that our health benefits policy, for instance, tends to punish those with families. Like, it's very favorable if you're single. Okay? You're kind of rewarding the wrong behavior here. So, but those with families, like if you have a family of 4, for instance, the health benefit that you have is really more the health benefit for only one person. Now, if you're a single, then you actually benefit more from that particular policy. So it disadvantages certain segments of our population, of our employee population. So we kind of changed that. Okay. Now, another group of measures pertaining to leadership and governance outcomes. There is no one measure here that everyone said that more than one actually mentioned. So I think there are 7 groups here, and there are more than 7 measures here, so no overlap that I could think of now. So what would be the ones that we might be able to track, okay? Easily track. I would think the IQA, okay? That you can track, okay? I would think this favorable outcomes from regulatory and accreditation audits, okay? You can track. Something that talks about your community responsibilities, okay? It should either be this one, amount of money donated, or feedback from community beneficiaries you could track. Okay? What we track is the number of hours, volunteer hours that are donated to the community by our faculty, staff, and students. Okay? And how many of them? So on the student side, for instance, generally you're finding that our students, on an annual basis, they average about 20 to 30 hours of volunteer work every year. That is outside of any classroom activity that requires them to work in the community. Okay? Then the final set of measures. You're looking at budgetary, financial, and marketplace measures. Student headcount is always important, especially if you're a private school, you're tuition dependent. Okay? That is the bread and butter of the institution. If you're a public school, that is not as important, okay? Because you already got your funding from the state. Although, of course, if your student headcount is declining, okay, the funding might follow suit. Okay, this is important, regardless of whether you're private or public. So I would suggest that you have something like, among your KPIs, revenue coming from non-government, coming from non-tuition, okay, non-regular program sources, like you actually go out into the business community, go for in-house training, you go for sponsored research, you create auxiliary enterprises, your health clinics that serve the public, your bakery, your restaurant, those things, those are all into this picture. Okay. Now, what do I think about this? Oh, by the way, this one I will include as well. And by this time, we probably have more than 10 already. So, okay. What do I think about percentage of total budget allocated to research? I think this is more like a workforce results, because this is really more like percentage of the budget that is allocated to something that the faculty actually value, okay? So it's something that you track, but you put it in another category. Now, annual budget operating margin, if I do not include this in my KPI, my board of trustees will. So this is something that they always look at, okay? So let's count how many KPIs did we have. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14. Good number. 10 to 15 is a good number. Okay, so questions. I'm going to reorganize this, okay, using these using the category 7, let me cite one more KPI for your consideration. You do a lot of surveys, student satisfaction surveys. How many of you ask the question, if you have a chance to do this all over again, would you do it? Okay. How many ask that question? None? No one. Okay. But you're familiar with that. If you have the chance to go back to school here at this university, would you do it? Okay.
Can we ask them in the interview?
Pardon?
Can we ask them in the interview in the informal way?
Okay, in an informal way. Okay. You can capture that in writing. You can actually give them a 1 to 10 scale. 10 meaning I will definitely do it. 1 meaning no way. 5 meaning maybe I will. Okay. Okay. A variation of that is, will you recommend this university to your friends? That still captures the same thought. But of course they will say, oh, of course I will do it again. You know, because if you give it a chance to go to this university, will you do it? Most people would probably say, of course I will do it again. Especially if you ask them in person. Of course I will do it again. Because otherwise it's a reflective of their sense of judgment. I was a fool to have lasted, and I should have left right away. So, okay, but because that's what it is. So, an indirect way of capturing that, but still get to the bottom of it is, will you recommend this university to your friends or to others? Okay. Then you can have a scale from 1 to 10. 1 meaning definitely not recommend, 10 meaning definitely recommend. Okay? Okay. Recommend 100%. Then maybe 9 would be very highly recommend. And then maybe 8 would be highly recommend. And then 7 would be most likely recommend. Then 6 would be likely recommend. 5 would be maybe yes, maybe not. Okay, so you see the thought. So you got this 1 to 10 scale. Okay. Then you would then collect data. Okay. You'll take what percent of our respondents said 10, what percent said 9, what percent said 8. Okay, you get the drift. Okay. All the way to what percent said 1. Okay. Then what I would ask you to do now next is, you add